Okay, so this is the second session of the Book Whisper, Awakening the Inner Reader in Every Student book series. And so the second chapter is called Everybody is a Reader. And I really like this chapter. I liked it because she discusses the importance of teachers to realize that all of our students are readers, they're just at a different level. And if they are a reader who may be at a lower grade level or skill level, that they're still a reader. We just have to figure out how to engage them in reading. So I really liked this. She did go throughout the book. She talks about how even on the very first day of class, she lets her students pick out books. And I think that's a really, really good idea. She thinks that that's really empowering to them. It kind of gets everyone on the right tone, gives them excitement. And if they don't like the book, then they still have time to kind of exchange it and all of that. I think that's a really good way to start out students in the class on the very first day, is to kind of show them that your class is, for me, in English language arts, going to be about reading. If you're in a different content area, that would probably look a little bit different. You may have students discuss things that they're passionate about so that you'll understand kind of how to match them with different articles or authors in your content area that you may know. Or it may just be determining what their passions are, so you yourself can find some reading material that relates to them and can help them connect better to the subject area. So she talks about there being 3 different types of readers. There are developing readers, there are there's developing readers, there are dormant readers, and then there are underground readers. So developing readers, dormant readers, and underground readers. And each of these readers has a different skill associated with them. So developing readers are what she likes to call struggling readers. She doesn't like to give struggling readers the negative connotation because most of them just have not had a pleasant experience with reading. So with developing readers, a lot of times what she will do is figure out what they're really passionate about and pair them up with a book that may be a couple grade levels behind where they are, so that way they get encouraged in the very beginning and it gives them a good experience with reading and they keep going. Dormant readers, which is definitely what I would relate to the most, that I think I personally am and want to kind of get out of that, is a reader that they can read. I can definitely read, but you're a reader who does what you have to get by. I personally love reading when I have the chance to be engaged in reading and to have the time to actually reflect and understand what I'm reading. But when I have, you guys know, when you have life on top of school, on top of work, on top of kids, and you're in school or you have work to do in the evenings, you do as much as you can sometimes to just get by because you literally are just hanging by threads sometimes. And that's how I can relate to as a reader, that a lot of times, definitely in high school, I remember just many times reading as much or as little as I had to get by, because reading for so many of us has become, and for so many teachers has become, getting students to pass the test, not to instill a love of reading and to make connections in reading and to be lifelong learners. It is definitely to get students to read as much as they can or do as much as they can to pass tests. And that is where our standardized testing system has failed us, because the majority of readers become dormant readers, where we read as much as we have to get by and it becomes a pattern throughout our life, and we don't necessarily read for pleasure when we get older. So I definitely feel like I relate to that, but I am fighting to get out of that, because even just the author discussing how much she loves reading and discussing how she feels like she makes connections to people in different countries, and when she goes to visit places, she already feels a connection to the place. It really inspires me that I would love to be more of that kind of reader, that I'm passionate about and making connections with people. The third type of reader that she talks about are the underground readers. And those are the students that are typically really, really good readers, but we try to conform them into our classroom to meet our needs. We don't try to encourage them in reading the books that they get excited about because they may seem like out of the ordinary, or they may be the quiet students who always have an odd book in their hand. But those are the students who get through assigned readings really, really quickly because they just want to get them out of the way so they can get back to reading what they want to read. So those are the readers who honestly probably have the most skills with reading, but many times they're overlooked because they just aren't meeting what we want of them. And a lot of times teachers can kill that love of reading for those students because they're always forced to read different things instead of what they really, really love. So with all of those students, she discusses how honestly just letting students choose and figure out what they love reading is the best cure for that. So she has a lot of time in her class set aside for students to actually read. And many times that is looked down upon if you have a lot of independent reading time because, people think, well, what are you actually teaching? And she just definitely discusses that the reason her students are so good at reading and score so high on tests is because she gives them the opportunity daily to read in class. And so I have a lot of questions about that as an incoming teacher, and hopefully I can figure out a way to do that, because the classes that I have observed, we've done in-class readings together. Students have had the opportunity to read individually, but their independent reading time is usually like the first 5 minutes of the class, so they don't really get really into it because it's just kind of the time to quiet them down. So what I really want to do, hopefully in student teaching, if I get paired with someone who is really good, I would like to see kind of what they think about giving students more time reading, or if they do that. None of the teachers that I've been with have really done that yet. One classroom I was in was a special education classroom. It was an inclusion classroom, and all of the books they read in class, but a lot of that was reading out loud so that the students could all be in the same place. If they did independent reading, it would be very different. But those books were chosen by the teacher. They weren't student choice books. So again, it's a very, very different idea. So I have a lot of questions about that, and maybe as teachers, current teachers and experienced teachers, you all who are listening may have some recommendations about how you do that. Again, I will be secondary, but even if you're an elementary content area, please comment any ideas that you have for that, because it seems to really work for Nancy Atwell and the author of this book. They seem to be really, really passionate about letting their students read a lot in the classroom, and I would love to have the type of classroom that focused on that if I could. One of the quotes that stood out to me in chapter 2 in this book is, "Learners who lose the ability to make choices become disempowered." Again, learners who lose the ability to make choices become disempowered. That is really powerful to me because, again, a lot of the time we're focused on our students learning so that they can pass a test and making sure that they pass the test. But the real focus is letting our students take responsibility of their learning, create learning for themselves, and choose how to learn in a way that best supports them. And if they're not having the opportunities to do that in the classroom, then they're becoming disempowered. They're not actually learning anything that's enhancing them as a person. So that really stands out to me a lot, and I'm going to reflect on that a lot because student choice can be frustrating for the teacher in the classroom. It can be really hard to give over responsibility to the students because we do want to control and we want to make sure that our students get everything out of it. But they have to have responsibility for themselves, or they're not relating to reading and material like they should. So that is definitely something I'm going to be reflecting on. That probably stood out to me the most out of all of chapter 2. So again, if you have read this book before and remember anything about chapter 2, let me know what you know. And if you haven't read this book, then please just let me know any thoughts or ideas that you have about what I have said from the book. Thank you.